Hi everyone, it's Sue Plum here to share another scrapbook process video with you. Today's layout that I am sharing is my first project using the May kit for Kidaholic Kits, and I am also using the mixed media add-on kit for this one. So for today's layout, of course, I am creating a mixed media layout, and in this month's mixed media kit we actually got some of the Vicki Boutin art crayons, and we also got some Vicki Boutin stencils. Now, the way I decided to work these into my background is I actually started off with a collage of photos of my son when he got his haircut. Now, the dominant colour in these photos was green, and I decided to do a bit of a monochromatic page for this one. So I was working predominantly with green and then with neutrals as well. So my background began with some acrylic paint. Now this is a heritage green paint from Kaisercraft, which I believe was in the January mixed media kit from Kidaholic Kits. And I used my $1 Kmart silicone spatula just to spread the paint all over the page. Once I had that paint down on the page, I went in with some white acrylic paint and my brayer, and you can see I am just rolling that off my very fancy palette there, and rolling that across the top of the green because I actually wanted to strip back some of that colour in some areas because I was planning to use the stencil and one of the art crayons over the top of it. So I had set my acrylic paint aside to dry at this point in time, and I just turned my attention to start working with some of the papers. I chose one of the colour blocks from one of the Heidi Swap papers. You can see it's that sort of forest green colour there, which I was going to mat my collage with. And I've also got another one of the Heidi Swap papers there from this month's kit that has also got a green print on it. So they were predominantly the two papers that I had chosen to work with because I thought that they would work in well with my photos. Now, I did some cutting and tearing and distressing of these layers. I was actually just putting these layers together and trying to keep them off the page while my page was wet. But as you know, using the method of using a spatula and also using a brayer, your paint will dry fairly quickly, so you don't have to wait too long. So I was layering the papers against that background just to see how well those colours would work. I was pretty happy with them, just making sure I was distressing them a lot. I like a lot of distressing on boy layouts. I like them to sort of have that grungy feel about them. So going in with my next layer of my mixed media background now, I've actually got that stencil there from Vicki Boutin, and it's got that sort of basket weave type pattern on it, which I thought would work really well on a boy layout. And I've actually got the green art crayon there, which I had just scribbled onto my non-stick mat. You can see I just scribble a bit there, and then I'm actually using a stencil brush that I got from the Kidaholic store, and I'm just picking up the pigment on the end of the brush, and then I'm using a circular motion through the stencil just to apply the colour onto the page. Now you'll note when I grip that stencil brush that I do hold it down. I actually hold it on the top of the bristles there, so I can pull those bristles in nice and tight. I don't like when the bristles sort of splay out too widely, so I hold it down actually on the bristle part of the brush when I do my stenciling, just to allow me to keep those bristles nice and stiff and get the colour in through the pattern on the stencil. Now, this is one great way that you can use your art crayons like this. It will give you a nice subtle result. You can see there, and you can see how much that green stands out over the top of where I had applied the white acrylic paint. Now, I didn't want to waste any of that pigment that was left on the mat, so I grabbed a moist baby wipe, and you can see I've just picked up some of that colour, and I'm just using the baby wipe just to sort of blend it into some of the areas on the background and just to help put in some of that extra green tone. So it gave me that variation in tone. I've got that heritage green paint. I've got this vibrant grassy green, which ties in well with the grass colour that is in my photos. I've also got the white acrylic paint there. So I'm starting to build my layers on my background. Now, for my next layer, I decided to go in with some stamping because one of the items in this month's kit is a stamp set from Pink Paisley, and it's actually got some flowers and it's got some leaves, and It's probably ideal for card making, this set. It's actually got the word thanks in there, which is a great card sentiment. But I decided that I could use some of these flower stamps on my background of my son. So the ink that I actually chose to work with, traditionally I would probably go in with a black ink, but for this layout I actually decided to go in with a navy coloured ink. My son did have a bit of navy on in the photo, and I thought that would provide a really good contrast to the white and the light green that I had going on without it being too harsh as a black. So I popped one of the clear stamps onto my stamp block. You will see that underneath my cardstock there, you would have seen me put in the old tea towel that's underneath. This is simply just to provide you a platform to stamp on. It allows you to get a much better, crisper imprint as it actually, absorbs some of the shock and you're not pushing down straight against a hard mat. So if you haven't got an old tea towel or something like that, you can actually use like an old computer mouse pad or something like that, a thin sheet of foam, anything that will give you a little bit of give and just to help you get that clear imprint on the page. So I used that same floral stamp in 3 areas on my page. I stamped it multiple times, but I did change the orientation of it as I moved around the page because it just made it look different. I wanted the leaves to sort of run towards the top of my page in that top cluster. I wanted the leaves to run towards the left edge of my photo and down the left sort of corner on the left side. And then in that bottom right cluster, I wanted them to run towards the right corner of the page. And that gave me those 3 sort of predominant clustered areas there, because you will know I love to work in 3s. So once I had those main flower stamps down, I actually went back with a small little stamp that just had a couple of leaves on it, and I just added some of those leaves to my clusters just to build them out a bit. And you will see how beautifully that navy ink sort of contrasts over that white paint, and it works in well with the blue tones because blue and green is one of my favourite colour combos. Now, once I had that stamping done, you can see I've gone back to the paper layers on my page. I've actually added in that a bit of contrast with one of the papers there. Rather than just sticking with the solid green, I actually wanted to add in just an extra tone just to help sort of lighten it up a bit. And I've used that paper that's sort of got that mustard yellow sort of craft colour on it. I added a little sort of torn piece under that bottom torn edge, which I also tore just for extra texture. I also just added a piece on top of my stack just so that it would poke out from behind the top left corner of my photos. In this month's kit, there are also some paper doilies, so I didn't actually need to dig into my stash for this one. They're just some white paper doilies, so I've popped one of those behind my stack. Now, traditionally, I would actually pop the doily up a little bit higher in my layers, but because these are a little bit larger than the ones that I usually use, I've actually popped that to the bottom of my layers, and I like the way that the white sits against that green paint anyway. Now, the top layer of all of my layers behind my photo there, of course, was some frayed gauze. And once I had the frayed gauze in place, I just secured it all together with staples, and then I used my Helmer 450 glue to stick my photo down on top. Now, for the embellishments on this page, I was actually working with the coordinating ephemera pack from Heidi Swap and also the cardstock sticker set that is also in this month's kit. I just picked through. I didn't really want to embellish this page too much because the background was quite busy. So I was looking at just a few simple bits and pieces that I could add on. The fact that I also had 4 photos jammed into that small space there, it was quite busy, and as I said, I just didn't want to add too many bits and pieces on. So on the left-hand side of my photo there, you can see I've just added a heart embellishment. That's from Charms Creations. That's actually got a dark denim layer on the top, which tied in really well with my navy stamping and also with my son's shirt. Now, you know that I like to layer these Charms Creations with other items, so I grabbed that XOXO sticker from the cardstock sheet, and then I just used my tiny attacher to staple it on there. Now, I did have a malfunction at this point in time. My tiny attacher actually jammed up after the first staple, and the little spring part or the little plastic arm inside it let go. A staple got jammed in it. I didn't have the patience to fix it. I don't really have any patience when I'm in the middle of a layout. So I tossed it aside. I grabbed my standard size stapler and I just finished stapling the sticker on with the normal size stapler instead. And then I glued my heart down in place there. Now, you will be pleased to know that I did manage to fix my tiny attacher after I finished scrapping this layout. So that's back into circulation now. What did I do? Okay, so for my title for this page, we actually got a pack of thickers in the kit. And these are actually raw chipboard thickers. And I knew I didn't want to use them raw because I thought they would actually get a bit lost on the page. So I knew I wanted to add some colour to them. Now, given that I had actually started to tie in a few blue tones and a bit of blue, I pulled out my Chipped Sapphire Distress Oxide and I just blotted the ink pad over the top just to allow that colour to transfer onto those letters, and you will see how well that those letters, the raw chipboard, just sucked up that colour. So I was really happy with the way that that colour turned out. I also wanted to add a little bit of detail to those letters so that they didn't look too flat. So I went back in with that small leaf stamp that I had used on my background, and I actually just stamped some random leaf pattern over the letters, which just gave them a little bit of extra dimension. You can see on the right-hand side of my photo there, I also grabbed a couple of little stickers, just the chevrons there, because I like to have things pointing in at my photo, and I thought that worked well with the title directly underneath it. I had pulled out that little die-cut rainbow. I'd also pulled out a little ticket from the ephemera pack, and I was just tucking those into my layers on the right hand side there. One of the other things I did do is I grabbed a sticker from the cardstock sticker sheet, which you'll see me do now, and I stuck it along the bottom edge of my photo. I love embellishing directly on my photos, and that just says enjoy the now. You can see how happy my son was with his haircut. He's fairly easily pleased, this kid. Above my photo, I actually had that tab sticker that reads happiness, and I had also added a small label sticker on the right hand side and just grabbed a blue pen and added my journaling. Now, in hindsight, that blue pen that I used, I should have actually tested the colour of, because it was a little bit bright. It was not quite the blue that I was after, but hey, it doesn't matter. It's on there now. The memory is documented, and that is the most important thing. Now, to finish off, I actually added some black splatters using Liquitex acrylic ink, and this page was done. At the very end, I actually went back in and I just added a few more little staples with my tiny attacher just to help tie in the other ones I'd placed on the page, and I stamped the date, and that was it. Thanks so much for watching today. If you have any questions, please pop them in the comments below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you like what you saw and hit that subscribe button. Thanks again. Bye.